get to know Marlon Humphrey. He is talked about in that organization like the next great defensive Raven superstar. I've been talking about him all summer long. I think Devin White is going to be the breakout player of 2020. This might be the guy who takes the biggest leap and leads his team to the playoffs. Josh Allen, #1 for me. There he is, Patty baby. Bring it home. Wait for the Pat Mahomes era to start. Every year I do this, it is the breakout players list, and that's my name, Peter Schrager, and it's top 10 breakout players for the 2021 season. We go off the radar. We were talking Mahomes before he was actually an NFL starter, go on to be an MVP season. Pat myself on the back there. It hurts my arm.
There we go.
Let's see the list so far for this year, because it's not all household names. This is what we do. We're not going to just give you the star player. Sometimes we're going to go off the radar. Then you get an A.J. Epinesa, who has lost 20 pounds and looks like he's in incredible shape for the Buffalo Bills. He's going to be a star pass rusher. You get Jordan Brooks, who is sideline to sideline linebacker, playing next to Bobby Wagner. And you get a Rondell Moore and Foster Moreau, guys that are not necessarily on your fantasy teams, but will be making impacts this year in the NFL. #4 is a household name, and his father was a household name. And this guy's also a Super Bowl champion, but he's going to go from that very good young player to that outstanding Pro Bowl, all-pro type player. Okay. It's Antoine Winfield. Let's go through Antoine Winfield Jr. last season. Let's see what he did in the big moments, all right? AFC, the wild card game, that's a safety. That's like Rondé Barber type stuff. And you come from the backside and track a running back down. That's incredible. Then you go to the divisional round the following week. Big game. They're playing the Saints. The Saints are rolling. This whole deal's happening. Breeze, okay, let's go. Plays Jared Cook. Here it is. Boom. Ah! Get you. Playmaker. Difference maker. Then last year's #1 breakout player and a Super Bowl legend, Devin White, takes it back. Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to make the leap this year. And in the Super Bowl, after missing the championship game with an injury, he, of course, had one of the biggest plays of the entire game, knocking it loose, getting the interception. And, of course, we know he had some taunting to do afterwards. Not acceptable anymore in the NFL. So you're saying, I know Winfield. I know what he's all about. This guy had 94 tackles last year. How can he be a breakout? Because a breakout player on my list is a guy who goes from being a good player in that defensive backfield to being one of the best safeties in the game. I'm talking with the folks in Tampa. They're saying that this 23-year-old in what is still one of the youngest defensive backfields in the entire NFL is the leader. They all turn to him. He's the guy. And there is such a heritage and such a tradition in Tampa of that with John Lynch and with Rondé Barber and the safety spot and what that means. And, of course, Antoine Winfield's father being such a legend in Buffalo and Minnesota. Antoine Winfield Jr. Last year, I said it was going to be Devin White in year 2 who's going to make the leap. He did. This year, it's Antoine Winfield Jr. It's hard to pick a Buccaneer and say breakout because they had such an amazing run and were such household names. But on a defensive backfield that's so young, to have this guy make a leap and get them all even better, 23 years old, I think we're talking about him in that Tyrann Mathieu, Jamal Adams, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Justin Simmons conversation as early as this season. Antoine Winfield's #4. All right, so that's a household name that is going to be an even bigger name. How about a guy who was one of the biggest college football players of all time, was one of the highest drafted wide receivers last year, and didn't quite have that rookie season that you're like, oh, slam dunk. Wait for year #2, Jerry Jeudy. Okay. Jerry Jeudy highlights are something special. Guys, let's go to the preseason game. What did you think of the preseason game where he had just one move? Watch Jerry Jeudy on this play. Just check out the footwork. It's what he does. He routes people up, and then look. There he goes. That's what you're getting in Jerry Jeudy, and I think you're going to get a lot more of it this year. Remember, last year, I'm very weird with the rookies from last year because of COVID, because of no preseason, because of no training camp. From a receiver standpoint, to get that familiarity in a game situation might take a while. And yet, week 1, right out of the gates, the moves. Watch the footwork. Watch the footwork, what he does. He can take what looks to be a 5-yard catch over the middle and make it a 15-yard play. Jerry Jeudy has outstanding footwork. Everyone knows it. He can stop on a dime. It is the kind of stuff they compare to Julian Edelman or Chad Johnson. Some of the best footwork guys in NFL history. That was week 1. We have another play here. This is from week 4 against the Jets with Brett Rippon throwing him the ball on a Thursday night. Again, new quarterback, instability there. He can go up and get the ball. Yeah. We talk about all these Alabama receivers of this year. Devontae Smith, of course, is going to make a difference. We know what he's going to be. We got Jalen Waddle down there in Miami. Everyone's excited. Last Last year, we also had Henry Ruggs, the burner. There are so many Alabama receivers that it's hard to remember that Judy was the very best of them when he was in college. When they were all together in that room, Judy was the guy. I know Drew Lock's the quarterback, and there's questions. That's fair. I understand. I know Teddy Bridgewater. We don't know who's going to be. I think Drew Lock's going to be better than we think. I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be a standout. They have Cortland Sutton. They have KJ Hamler. They have Noah Fant. Judy's the number one. This is the guy. You don't draft a player in the top 15 for him not to be. And the words you get out of Denver is that, like, once a practice, he'll do something with those feet. He'll route somebody up on the line. I wish Nate was here to show us that footwork. I'm not doing it justice. All the same, Jerry Jeudy, one of the best footwork guys, some of the best hands, and a great player to have on your team because he's a good person as well. That's number 4 and number 3. Let's bring it up now. Let's see the top. I guess this is going up all the way now. We're going to top 8.
Yeah.
Just 2 left.
TJ, Epinesa, Gage, Brooks, Moreau, Rondell Moore, Antoine Winfield makes the list, and Jerry Jeudy today is our wide receiver in the hot spot, number 3. That is big production. Whew. Kyle, I know you've got thoughts on all these guys. Winfield and Jeudy. What do you say?
Looking at Winfield, and Patrick Surtain's going to go through the same thing this year. There comes a point where you can't mention his father anymore. Like Antoine Winfield, every time he comes up, including in your segment, it's always, you know, his dad played. If you're a star, if you are an all-pro, you don't talk about the dad anymore. This has to be a thing with Winfield, because even on the broadcast, they do it every time. He's going to have this kind of season where we don't talk about his dad anymore.
Great point. You know, you're always living in that man's legacy.
Always.
The entire time as a player until you eclipse that legacy and you become your own player. Last year, it was the fun note. His dad actually played in the NFL.
I know.
This year, Antoine Winfield, it's him. He's the guy, and we can still refer to the dad, but it's not going to be just Antoine Winfield's son.
I wish Nate was here. He's such a huge fan of Antoine Winfield.
He is. Yeah.
He's been talking him up to me, sort of put his name on the map for me last year. Quarterback situation in Denver. Does it worry you at all? Because you're showing me how great he is, and he can route everybody up, and he's out there doing it. Are you worried about who's throwing him the ball?
No, I'm not, honestly, because his style of game is so much throw him the rock, and then after the catch, what he's going to do with his footwork at the line of scrimmage. For Jeudy, I think the numbers are going to be high regardless if it's Locke or it's Bridgewater. Last year was an abomination when Locke comes out, and you're literally, I mean, Rippon won that game against the Jets. But you had Brett Rippon coming off the street playing quarterback in a COVID year. Then you had the whole Kendall Hinton stuff. Like the Denver quarterback room was a mess last season.
That was insane.
A little bit more stability this year. I think it's going to bode very well.
Jerry Judy's going after Odell Beckham Jr., Chase Claypool, even his own teammate Cortland Sutton in fantasy. Maybe scoop him up earlier than later, people.
Yeah, it looks like Drew's locked in with him. For Antoine Winfield, here's the thing that jumped out at me. Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator. Think about the safeties that Todd Bowles has coached. When he was in Arizona, he had Antrell Roll, and you know he had Jamal Adams with the Jets. Tyrann Mathieu was down in Arizona as well. So when you kind of think about like what Todd Bowles has done from a coaching standpoint, you know, just coach to player, but then also from a scheme standpoint, his safeties are like his MVP on the defense. Like they do everything, and he loves to bring pressure with them. And Antoine Winfield fits that team.
He's 23. He's only getting better. And the crazy thing is, Vita Vea apparently is having an amazing summer. This guy Joe Tryon, who was their first-round pick, has been outstanding. Like the Bucks might be even better on defense this year, which is really scary for the rest of the NFL.
2-1 tomorrow.
2-1 tomorrow.
Any hints? Any little teasers out there? Nothing.
Watch on Friday.
Watch on.
Mac Jones highlights. Kit Kat.